Welcome back to the Royal and Derngate's Beyond the Stage podcast, an oral opportunity to go behind the scenes, meet the creatives, and explore big ideas behind the plays made right here in Northampton. I'm your host, Kyle Collingwood. This is our third episode and a particular special one. As it's our first ever crossover episode, we're delighted to be partnering with Northampton College, and I'm excited to welcome our guests and be joining me as hosts today.
I'm Sarah Thursby, and I'm the Curriculum Manager for Music and Performing Arts at Northampton College.
And I'm Jason Lancaster. I'm the Principal and CEO of the college.
And now, for anyone who might be asking, where's Jessie? Don't worry, our brilliant artistic director, Jessie Jones, and my usual co-host is still here today. But today, he's on the other side of the mic, as we'll be talking to both him all about our upcoming play, Made in Northampton, and the world premiere of Top G's Like Me, which Jessie is directing.
Hello.
To start off, I'd normally do a bit of an intro, but this show is all your baby, Jessie. Why don't you tell us what Top G's Like Us is about and how did you come across it?
Top G's Like Me is... sorry, I just did a really mean thing where I kind of corrected you. That was a bit passive-aggressive, so sorry about that. Top G's Like Me is a play that is about the online space and about the influence that insidious influencers and the internet have on young minds, and specifically young men's mind. Our protagonist, over the course of a summer, gets influenced by the kind of real culture and shorts culture, and that affects the way that he interacts with the real world. So it's a satire that introduces this influencer called Hugo Bang into Aidan's life, and by us bringing the internet onto the stage, hopefully articulates in a humorous way, but a important way, the effect that that has on his life. And it's a new play written by Samson Hawkins, who is a writer who is from Northamptonshire and has been in development for some time.
And why are you so excited about directing this?
Well, it was something that the initial idea was developed by Samson and a brilliant local artist called Andy, and they developed the kind of first beginnings of this idea as part of Generate, which is our artist development scheme, and then there was a version of the play that was written that didn't kind of speak directly to this kind of online space. But when I spoke to Samson about that play, I asked him what was the play that he wanted to write about, and he said, I want to write a play about how this space is really dangerous for particularly young working class men, and the complications around how you can be drawn into that. But he said no one wants to kind of hear that, wants to watch that play. And I said, well, actually, I think lots of people do want to watch that play. So he went away and wrote it, and he's come back and written something surprisingly anarchic and I think really well observed, and it hopefully captures not just the painful impact that it can have on those around our character, but how that happens, how you were bewitched by this kind of space if you were looking for answers in a particular direction. It's very funny. We're turning the Derngate into a skate park, which is petrifying and really exciting. It's bold, it's ambitious. We're working with some amazing partners that we'll get to in a second. It feels really important. It feels like it speaks to the world in which we live in a way that feels immediate and is hopefully entertaining and is new work and is Northampton focused. So I'm both really excited to want to get to make a play like that, but that comes crippled with responsibility and pressure and so on and so forth and blah 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 blah. Maybe we can get into that another time, but just the scale, ambition, and importance of it, I suppose, is what excites me.
And I think that's from our point of view at college as well. We're totally committed to that sort of buying into the ambition and the relevance to our young people here, and not just our performing arts students. This is the point we've committed, and Jason probably can talk more about this idea of we're going to bring a lot of students across all the curriculum areas, and the idea is that the content is particularly relevant to young people, and they're things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But it's particularly powerful, I think, because it combines all those really important themes for young people, but the fact that it is made in Northampton and quite literally physically in a theatre replicating Radlands, which is a Northampton place that people know really well. There is that real connection, I think, for the target audience. And also from our point of view, we talked a bit about this earlier, for parents and for, not just the young people, the people that need to hear about this and understand this. And you think in the context of things like adolescence, which has become a real topical debate, it's very relevant at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get onto this, but we had a crazy idea when we were thinking about putting it in the Derngate, that we would go to young people's services and education providers in Northampton and go, okay, well, we're putting on this play. How do we get 16 to 18 year olds and up in to watch this show, because we think it can say something to them. And we came to these guys at the college, and they have been two-footed in jumping in behind that and made commitment to an incredibly large number of students to come and engage with it as a piece of work. I suppose how. And I don't imagine that's an easy decision to make. No. When we met, Jason, you kind of made that decision feel supported and quite immediate. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. But I understand from running an organisation that is never easy. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it was that made you think it was an idea to go for?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were a college of 5,000, more than that, younger students, and plenty of others as well. But this is a real challenge for our young people, and I think it's not just the males, I think the females as well. It's a really tough society to live in, I think. I know we keep saying about post-COVID, but actually life did change at that point, and it's a really formative age for these young people, so far more than we were used to, living online as a whole other world. And I think it's really hard to get an objective view of the world now, and particularly perhaps if you've not got the experience that you get with time. So we see all sorts of challenges around confidence, around, weird views coming out and some of these things. And we thought, actually, well, this is speaking precisely to a piece of work we need to do. So we're going to bring 2,000 students to see the play, which is very excited about that. And I think the other thing that I'm very mindful of is that there'll be some of those young people who were, they do go to the theatre, but actually there's a whole load that don't.
They don't.
And let's get them through the doors.
Yeah.
And some of them may never go again, but actually they've gone and had that experience. And for others, they'll think, oh yeah, I might do that again. So I think there's multiple benefits. So it was, as you say, it was a big decision in terms of, we're committing a bit of money to it and all of that stuff, but actually the longer term partnerships are really important. I think the other thing that we're also committed to is that it won't be taking 2,000 students to see the play. There's then a whole range of pastoral and developmental opportunities that we'll build into that whole period actually around the play. I know we've got some of our construction students coming to help with building the set and some of those things as well. So there's loads of opportunities as well for students to go and have conversations, because actually for a lot of those they'll have the really interesting conversations around the play as well. And so
that's the thing that we talk about quite a lot, is that when speaking to you guys and speaking to other colleges and stuff like that, this is not a kind of turn up in your hall, do you see what I mean? And deliver a piece of work that lays out the rights and the wrongs, do you see what I mean? It's a piece of theatre that was written as a professional production that people come to, but it speaks to some really complicated issues and asks people, and a lot of the, as you talked to Jason, the work that we do around it is to try and get young people to have conversations around what they see in the play, rather than be told this is right, this is wrong. It's this is and actually that the cognitive skills to assess that is a really important part of growing up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we increasingly have seen in this space around the increasing prevalence of AI and a whole range of other things, critical thinking skills are the thing, and that actually we can say, well, we think this is right and this is wrong. That won't stick, but the thing that'll stick is actually think for yourself, and these are the ways to do that, and this will help with that significantly, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the, the core values that we're teaching, transferable skills, communication, and the opportunity actually to talk about these things. So that's where, particularly within our tutorial context, it's really important, the conversations about it, as well as the actual experience of coming to see the play. So before and after, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And speaking on that experience of coming to see the play as well, what a wonderful opportunity for them to see Top G's Like Me, but also like not just the themes that will be relevant for the students, but also just what an exciting play to see in terms of a set design perspective as well. As I know Jesse, you spoke to earlier about turning the Derngate into a skate park. So would you mind telling us a bit more about the set design for the play, and because that's pretty unique and special for...
Yeah. So the Derngate was built in 1984, and it was built as a multi-purpose space that could go into at least 7 different configurations. One of them is called snooker, because it was sign of the times, snooker was the big thing. So like there are plans for anyway, but what that means is that most people that come into the Derngate, if you are listening and you have been in, that is end on in a kind of traditional theatre setup. What we're doing is we're flipping that so that there'll be audience on 2 sides, which is called traverse, a kind of 50-50 split of the audience sitting on 2 sides, a capacity of about 700, and then in the middle, across the width of the whole hall, if you like, is an 18-metre width, and we've got an 18-metre by 6.5-7 metre skate park, which is inspired by Radlands Plaza, which is just down the road from us and next to Northampton University. So it will be a skatable. One of the reasons for that is that the lead character in the play starts the play by trying to land a trick on his scooter, and he's kind of hanging around in the skate park, sort of, and the play encourages him to go back to trying to do that and trying to commit to doing that trick rather than getting lost, kind of doom scrolling, and there's a kind of metaphor in that somewhere. But yeah, so we're building the skate park that can be that will be skated at times in the show, and there's also more LED tape than I've ever seen on a production, because we're trying to bring the world of the internet to life. So we're thinking really dynamically about how the skate park can look like a skate park, but then we put on a load of LED tape all around the auditorium, and that suddenly takes us into the online space. Because when we were thinking about the design of the show, we thought a lot about whether to use projection or screens to kind of show the world of the internet, but it felt to us that actually we wanted that to be a live experience. But what is really important in that is that we all know is that there is the brightness of the light that comes out of the phone is really important in that, in the addictive culture that is built around it, and what is that is doing to you in terms of the sugar rush, I suppose, of engaging in that way. The set will be covered in graffiti, and there'll be lots of hidden messages in that graffiti that then will hopefully come to light in a very special way that I don't want to talk too much about. But Rebecca, the set designer, who unfortunately can't be with us today, we're working hard at the moment. We're in the process of pulling together how this play will look and feel, but it's a very exciting time, and scary as well. But making plays and doing anything ambitious should be scary at the same time.
You've talked a lot there about that sort of online experience, and particularly that mobile online experience. And we hear a lot about influencers, and we get to hear about it as well. What sort of research has gone on behind the production to sort of inform what's coming out of that? Yeah,
so well, Samson, the writer, is a school teacher, so he works in a secondary school as a drama teacher, and so some of those experiences are filled by that. He spent an awful lot of time poisoning his algorithm, shall we say, which he finds quite difficult, because he's spent a lot of time in and around trying to build a picture of what happens how do we try and make that algorithm and that post-algorithm sense of the internet truthful. So he tried to build a profile that is like Aidan, that starts on tutorials on how to play his favorite video game and how to land a trick online, that goes into, that slightly gently hovers on some material that is about not knowing what you want to do in your life and the influence that has. So what he's trying to do is build a reasonably truthful journey of how you can very quickly come across somebody else, and part of that is because he's trying to impress a girl, and the advice that one might get online about how to impress a girl or a boy, who whatever the case may be, is not necessarily always the best advice, although there is plenty of good advice online. This is not a complete dragging of the internet. There's lots of exciting things, and then particularly within the wraparound work, our amazing engagement team at the Royal and Derngate have been working a lot with various different charities and specialists, thinking about how we create wraparound activity that speaks to online safety, toxic masculinity, and so on and so forth. So there's been the research within the body of the play, and actually Rebecca designed stage shows for some quite big content creators that now do stage shows that go all the way around the world. So she kind of understands that image per second ratio, and then the kind of wider wraparound stuff is being led a lot by our incredible engagement team. I suppose that there's something around that in the moving, how fast that space moves for us in creating the play, in a play that's been in development for a number of years, and our worry about, we have a worry about what is relevant to us, what was relevant when we made the play, and how quickly that online space evolves, particularly when we're thinking about bringing in a load of students who will smell through that very quickly, I suppose. But how complicated is that as educators, I suppose, in terms of that fast moving pace of what is popular or what the young people are engaging with at any one particular time?
I think what I see is that the specific technology, the specific platforms does shift quite quickly, but I think the journey is very similar. We used to talk a lot more, and we still do talk to some extent, around other radicalisation, extremism agendas, but that pathway of actually people who are a bit disaffected, looking for a mentor figure, trying to get good advice, but not being able to really differentiate between it, that's the same pathway. So I think the key thing is that that journey has got to be familiar. And of course, in students' own language is the other thing as well. And so where you do get these really challenging extremist pathways, it is always that the language is, it's more like a brother than it is a father, perhaps. And so that sort of, I don't think that changes. It hasn't changed really. I don't know what you think, Sarah.
No, I agree in all of that. And I think it's interesting from a sort of an artistic point of view in terms of script writing, the actual language, that shifts so significantly within weeks sometimes. So what is kind of the language that is perhaps we're not accessing on a day-to-day basis. So things can suddenly feel a bit dated, feel a bit, even using the word naff in itself is an example of a word that is outdated. But that, and living with teenagers as a parent, as well as working with teenagers, that pace of change and understanding. But I think there's also something there about, I think young people are also incredibly resilient to this too. And it's sometimes when we have those discussions in class or in tutorials or with a group of people, the awareness about it actually is also really impressive. And, so although we are trying to make sure that there is this discussion about stuff that is going on that we might not hear and see and understand, I think we should have a bit of trust and faith as well in young people, because there is a lot of conversation going on around resisting toxic masculinity. And, it's really brilliant hearing young students, male, female and anything else, discussing that and not standing for it, not hearing it, standing up for themselves and other people. So it should provoke some really interesting conversations, I think.
And I think I do agree there with the sentiment of they're trusting more young people that they are resilient to the content that they see online, but also at the same time it does also take a small handful of those to be affected to have such a big impact on things. According to research in 2024 from King's College, London Policies Institute and Global Institute, going to kind of talk about some of the info that we've done here, Gen Z boys and men are more likely than baby boomers to believe feminism is harmful. The study, which polled over 3,600 people, showed 16% of Gen Z males felt feminism had done more harm than good, compared to boomers, which was 13%. 1 in 4 UK males aged between 16 to 29 believe it is harder to be a man than a woman, despite violence against women and girls still being rife. The director of the Policy Institute said this was a new and unusual generational pattern. Normally it tends to be the case that younger generations are consistently more comfortable with emerging progressive social norms as they grow up with them as part of a natural part of their lives. But Gen Z are the first generation to derive most of their information from social media. The same study found that those surveyed, 1 in 5 young men aged 16 to 29 who had heard of Andrew Tate say they have a positive view of him. For anyone who hasn't heard of him, Andrew Tate is a British-American social media influencer who has millions of followers, 10 million on X alone, which formerly known as Twitter. Tate has faced numerous charges of human trafficking, rape and assault, which he denies, some of which have been dropped, some of which are progressing through criminal or civil courts. He's talked about hitting and choking women and is proudly self-described misogynist. The character of Hugo Bang is based on figures such as Tate, and it's easy to dismiss such influences as bad or evil as they may seem so clearly outrageous, but it is resonating on some level, or we wouldn't be talking about it and doing plays about it. So, Jessie, I want to raise this question to you. What do you think draws young men to these ideas? How has this been allowed to happen, do you think?
I mean, that's a huge question. I think one is the technology and the thing that Jason spoke to earlier about the circumstances that people are when people are looking for something, and when they feel forgotten about or angry or misunderstood, that is how all extremist, and dare I say it is extremist thought, do you see what I mean? Let's not mince our words around what that kind of behaviour is. But any kind of behaviour that aims to radicalise in the way that Jason speaks to is there's a cause and effect to it. Now, what the danger and why this, as that report speaks to, that specialising in that is coming out of social media, is how direct one can feel that somebody is speaking to you, and the language around it and the immediacy of it, and you don't have to search very far, and by design these platforms and these devices are built on a science that is encouraging you to spend as much time as possible on it, because the more time that you spend on it, the more powerful and the more money that is being made, whether we like it or not, without getting too far into capitalism, is that's what they're there for. They are and people then understand, because it's quite public knowledge, how and what the science and what the addictive culture of these things are, and people use that space in the same way that the gambling industry use slot machines in Vegas, or gaming companies use that thing, or television companies use that little box that says we're going to start the next thing in 4 seconds. Do you see what I mean? These things are built to keep you watching, because the longer that we keep you watching, so people become prey, essentially, and it becomes really immediate. And actually, what happens is that these people, whether they do or whether they don't, believe completely these things, get paid as a result of doing it. So if they can keep you watching and they can find the thing that hooks you in and then keep you watching it, is they get paid to do that, in the same way that newspapers get paid when people buy the newspapers. So they print things that prey on people's vulnerabilities and prey on the population. That's not a new thing, as Jason kind of speaks to. It's just been happening a really long time. But this is more immediate, and it's in your bedroom, and you can't get away from it. And I think that's the slight difference.
And I think the other thing that I think it's a confluence of two things. So I think one of them is that content is tailored to you now in a way that it never was before. And sometimes it's tailored for you to agree with, and sometimes it's for you to violently disagree with. Mm-hmm. But it is your content now. So, back in the day, you'd watch the 9 o'clock or the 10 o'clock news, and you would get a common view across society of what society was, however imperfect and editorialised that was. But you would get that. I don't think we have that in the same way now, that actually you're seeing your version of truth. And that if you don't have an objective, or at least a datum point to lean on, that's really hard. And then the other point, which we've already talked about, really is these are people they don't feel part of a group, they don't feel looked after. And that's not a blame thing. We need to work on that. We need to support these people to feel engaged and involved in society. And I think a range of things around how you look people into the community, how you get people to talk about the things that are concerning them and then deal with them, all of that. But that confluence of feeling ignored and very tailored content, I think that's the two things that are really different now. Yeah.
And we have to be really careful in society of this kind of point of no return culture.
Yeah.
Which is to say that you are influenced by something at a certain age or at a moment, and that has affected you, and you have done something. Yeah. That doesn't mean that will always be your thought pattern.
No.
That doesn't mean that we don't need to find ways, whether that be through plays or conversations or music or whatever medium it is, to be able to ask you to question that. Yeah. And also ask us to question it, because we can't walk into this and say we have all of the answers, right? Like that evolves and shifts, and
the key thing is raising the questions, isn't it?
Exactly that. And listening to the answers. Absolutely. And then responding, and then finding
common
truths.
And
And as Sarah spoke to earlier, that kind of idea of having that critical thinking, critical thought to be able to question those things.
Absolutely crucial.
And I think also the fact that we've got the opportunity through this performance as well is theatre gives us that, one of those forums where you do then go into a space where you're thinking about these things and you're dealing with themes that, when you think about it historically, toxic masculinity has been a theme in theatre since the classics, so we're all, and patriarchy and the problems with that, so lots of these things are there, but this is speaking to a younger audience and perhaps taking them a little bit out of the dealing with it online and being in a space where there are other people, and hopefully making some of those conversations then there, because theatre can do it, other art forms can do it, like you were saying as well with music. There are challenges to it everywhere, but it's really important that we've got those opportunities to discuss it in the artistic context and the sort of community context.
Well, it's essentially the thing we know to be oldest form of discussing and airing and warning and pushing forward a discussion around the complications that come from living within a society and within a civilization. Theatre is that mechanism. There are obviously many more things that do that now, but what lots of those things don't do is offer the communal experience to do it. And as Jason said, it's like also hopefully some young people like this. When we talk about, there's a danger when we talk about the themes of the play. Do you see what I mean? And the mission of the play, which is true, absolutely of it. That we want all of those discussions to happen, as we do with every piece of work that we make. It also just has to be really entertaining.
Yeah.
Like people have to come and watch. People have to come and watch it, young and old, and have a response to it. Not everybody will like it, because not
Yeah.
everybody likes any play that you ever put on. Some people will think it's entertaining, other people won't.
Yeah.
But it has to. I want the young people or anybody that come and watch the show and go, "Wow, okay,
Yeah.
oh wow, they did that."
I mean, I was going to touch on that because we've talked about a lot of very serious stuff, and it really is very serious, both at an individual and societal level. But the play is also really funny.
Yeah.
And so how does that all interact?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like satire, right? Like
Yeah.
the play. If the play starts and continues to be funny, and the lure of the satire, something does it quite cleverly, because even though the internet space is definitely satirical and is definitely picking up on people that you don't necessarily like or opinions that you might not like,
Yeah.
it does that in a way that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's where you see some of the attraction towards it as well, because that is a vehicle that is used within that space. Aidan is lost but is very quick-witted. Aidan's the main character, and the interactions that he has with his friends and the young people around him are stupid and funny
Yeah.
and provocative, and I think Samson has found that kind of truthful. I say the language is a little kind of, it's a little in betweeners.
Yeah.
It's a little this country.
Yeah.
It speaks into that kind of that kind of BBC Three comedy-esque kind of world that feels really exciting and actually refreshing to hear those voices on stage, because you don't always hear them.
No.
So and then you know, putting the internet on stage generally is ridiculous, and some of the stage directions in it, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but that poses a really fun theatrical thing, and it'll be up to people to come and watch it and decide whether we've made that work or not. But yeah, you should, you know, hopefully people are laughing out loud at it, and I always think that's the best way of getting you to think about something. Like, I think if you walk into something and we're just shouting at you. Also, there's something that Samson talks about quite a lot in the way that the play ends, and we go back and forth. Aidan does some things over the course of the summer to people in his circle that are not good and could have some quite serious consequences, and maybe should have some quite serious consequences. Samson and we are we are debating how serious to make those consequences, because we want to show what behaviour can do, and there's a responsibility in us to do that. We also, what I don't want to do is for people to come out and go, well, they were always going to do that. He was always going to amount to nothing. He was always going to get to do this thing. He was never going to da-da-da-da, because that is exactly the language of the real Hugo Bang would use if they did a thing about the play. Hugo Bang would go, well, at the end of the play, this is going to happen, and so it was never going to be for you anyway. So, because everybody hates you, and therefore listen to me. So it's like finding the hope, finding the joy.
Well, and you talked earlier, didn't you, about people not necessarily being locked onto a railway track in their lives, and that actually the actions have consequences, but also there's also redemption in life as well.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly that. But yeah, making people laugh and then delivering them, then them trying to get them to think, is a lot better way than saying, you must think, you must think, you must think, you must think.
Would you say that the comedy and the humour warms people up into those kind of hard-hitting moments then?
I'd say at times it completely depends on what you find funny or not. Some people, the reality is that some people will warm to Aidan automatically from some of his humour. Some people will find it tiresome and be like, oh god, I know that person. Some people will find it infuriating, but that's also real people. Like comedy is the most immediate way to get a response from an audience. But anybody that has I've sat, I won't say any comedians' names, but we put on loads of comedians at the Derngate. I've made lots of funny plays and I've watched lots of funny plays, and sitting in an auditorium when everybody else finds something funny and you don't find something funny is deeply infuriating.
Yeah.
So there will be, do you know what I mean? There will be people that go, well, that's not funny. And there'll be people that think it's the, funniest thing. I was about to say the funniest thing since sliced bread, but that's not how the thing goes, is it? Yeah, so, you can't do everything for everybody, but
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with comedy, isn't it? Like how it kind of warms people up into those things. And how did you, like with comedy, with comes to Top G's Like Me, how easy was it to find the comedy in that for you? Like kind of, because obviously you've done a lot of exploring with the algorithm and research into it.
Samson's modus operandi is just to make people laugh. He cares deeply about it. Like he wants you to laugh uncomfortably at times. That's who he is as an artist. He wants to say funny things that people say that is unexpected. And he finds the comedy in it. My job is then to try and serve that comedy, which is quite a hard thing to do as a director, finding the right actor to be able to do that, and make sure that we're laughing in the right place at the right times. That's another thing that you have to do, to try and make sure that it doesn't become alienating. But yeah, Samson's the funny one. I just laugh at his jokes. Yeah.
There's a real sort of a bit of a socially conscious mission to this piece. How does that fit, do you think, with the sort of the broader remit around theatre? How do you sort of get that balance right around that?
That's a great question. I think that, I think about it in context of me going to the theatre, and I watch a lot of theatre, as you would imagine. It'd be remiss of me not to, but I judge a play on how coming out of it, it has to do one or two things. It has to entertain me, and I believe that you can be entertained, and entertainment for entertainment's sake is a beautiful thing, and it does something chemically to your brain that is a really important part of living in society. It makes you like happy and enjoyment, or it can make you sad, but I'm just entertained. I'm not thinking about the world, I'm entertained. And the other thing that I come out of a play is or if it's not doing that, I really want to think about the world and question the world. And I think that the best theatre does both of those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's our responsibility as theatre makers, and in my case, somebody who is part of the leadership team of a major regional theatre, to curate a programme that allows the space for all of those things to happen.
Absolutely.
And to try and create a place for discourse so that we can put out a wide range of work that invites people from lots of different viewpoints and places and thought processes to come together to laugh, cry together.
Yeah.
And the power of that, when you might think you have a different view or live differently, or think you might not agree with somebody or their thought processes, the power of coming together and laughing and going, oh look, that person, we have something in common.
Yeah.
That's good. That makes sense. Why did you laugh at that? Why did I laugh at that? And why were you like that? Really moved you. And that's powerful. So I think that is what theatre is. Like I kind of spoke to earlier. The Greeks. There was a reason why the Greeks made everyone go to the theatre, and that was to be entertained, but to interrogate the society in which they live, and also to the danger was the propaganda bit, but we won't go into that. Right?
No. There is something I think really powerful, and it's where the impact is around that shared emotional response, isn't it? My view of any art actually is that I don't really mind if I love it or if I hate it. If I'm neutral to it, that's the problem. Yeah. And so I think for me, as long as the audience walk out with an emotional response, they'll then do the cognitive thinking afterwards. Yeah.
And as you say, that emotional response, because also, especially with a play like Top G's Like Me, this will be realities for a lot of people watching this play. And it'll be realities for whether they're a young person or like our protagonist or a parent or an educator coming to watch the show, trying to better understand the play. And what do you hope our audiences take away from watching Top G's Like Me?
I hope they feel. I hope that they walk out having been entertained, of laughed, of been wowed in some way. I hope that they come out asking questions of who is looking out and who has their back, or the backs of the people that they care for. And I hope that people come out and talk about that. I hope that parents, it might evoke some conversations between parents and young people, between educators and young people, between grandparents and their grandchildren or their kids. Do you know what I mean? But more importantly, actually, between any of the audience members, in whatever the context of who they're talking to afterwards. I hope they go, well, I can see where it will actually be good is if you get like, well, I can see why that kind of happened. Oh yeah, but have you thought about it from this point of view? And that'll be really great. But that will only work if people are entertained while watching it. Otherwise, no one wins.
And what a lovely way to put that at the end, and to, as you say, to hope that our audiences leave feeling entertained and can have those questions.
Not entertained.
Yes. So, and I think that's such a wonderful way to bring our to the close of our podcast today. And thank you, Jessie, for your insight into the play and such brilliant ways to describe it and give such a detailed and visceral view into the play. And yeah, thank you for your time.
That's right. And thank you to you guys for having us up at the college.
Absolute pleasure.
And very welcome.
And for the support that not only on this show, but also the long-term relationship that we have with you guys in terms of putting art and culture at the centre of so many young people's lives is at a time when you don't always have to.
But I think actually we're a community, aren't we? So we're a community for Northamptonshire. The more we do together, the more we'll achieve together. So, mutual benefit.
Great.
Absolutely.
And I think, as you say, because Jessie, as you spoke to earlier, some of our creative engagement team and the wraparound that's going on there. So for any educators and youth workers or parents out there who are concerned about some of the issues and would like support and training in how to have these conversations with the young people in their lives, you should join us for our Teachers, Parents and Practitioners Conference from the 17th and 18th of January next year. It will be a 2-day event of a series of CPD accredited insightful workshops and impactful led by leading charities and award-winning activists, designed to equip you with the tools to advise and guide children and young people through the common challenges and risks presented by our increasingly digitalised lives. Workshops and speakers at the conference include online safety with Southwest Grid for Learning, healthy masculinity with Beyond Equality, online misogyny with Laura Bates, safeguarding with Smart Horizons Child Protection, reframing masculinity with Nathaniel Cole, and the hidden impact of smartphones and social media on child development with Smartphone-Free Childhood. If you want more information about the conference and how to book, contact getinvolved@roylandderngate.co.uk. And for top Gs like me, the play will be on the Derngate stage February 21st to March 7th. Check out the Royal and Derngate website for tickets and more at www.roylandderngate.co.uk. Again, we'd like to thank our collaborative hosts from the Northampton College. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Jason, for today. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today, and goodbye.